Alright, it's time once again for another deadline tier list. Now, I know it wasn't that much time since the last one, but update 0.23.0 and now update 0.23.1 came out, and a lot of stuff changed regarding the gunplay, for example. So a lot of guns were revamped, 4 new guns got added, and I'm gonna talk about each gun a bit more in detail than in the previous tier lists. And as a disclaimer, this is obviously my opinion. If you have a different opinion, feel free to tell me in the comments, and maybe I agree. So let's start off with the M41, the starter weapon. Now previously I wasn't placing it that high, but generally the M4 is kinda underrated, or like it is kind of slept on. It is a very, very good gun, and a lot of people do use it, but a lot less than like I've seen times where everyone was just running the M4. And it is good. It's a good gun. I think it is an A tier gun. Not worthy of S tier because there are some other competitors, but it is very, very good. The MK16, which used to be one of my favorite ARs, if not my favorite, has sadly gone down all the way to B tier from, I think, A tier last time, simply for the reason that the recoil just doesn't hit the same. It used to be a very, very low recoil, easy to control rifle, but now the horizontal recoil feels like it's, like 10 times more. It's just not as good. I'm sorry. SA58. Okay, so the thing is, with all the .308 rifles, like the DMRs in the deadline basically, they're all worthy of S tier, simply because they can one-shot. To balance it out, I'm also going to consider the weight though, so I'm going to say that the S58, when compared to the other .308 guns, is an A tier rifle. We have the MK17, our first S tier gun. It's basically a much, much better SA58 with, better recoil, better overall stats, and I just love this gun. It still holds up to this day. It's an amazing rifle. And you have the G3, which is very similar to the MK17 actually, and is kind of a hybrid between the two guns. I think it's a good gun. It's probably the most controllable in full auto out of all the .308 guns, and that's why I'm gonna give it a spot in S tier as well. Then we have the HK416. Now the HK416 I think is still worthy of A tier for a lot of factors, but mainly because it's actually very, very good in single fire, especially if you're using 1x sights, so like hollows, red dots. The HK is amazing. I really like to use it. It's of course very good in CQC because of its insane damage per second and the fire rate. Scar 47 used to be a very, very good rifle in Deadline. Now I think it's a B tier rifle. The recoil is just too much. Like, the damage does not compensate how much recoil the Scar 47 have. And if you do get it to one shot up to like 100 studs, which is not bad, that's honestly a decent range, still the MK17 will just be a much better option because even though the caliber is a lot smaller, it still has pretty much the same recoil as the MK17. Then with the AK-74, and oh my god, I was surprised when I first played it after the update. This is 100% the first S tier assault rifle, because the recoil, once you get the horizontal recoil out of the way, this gun just slaps. It's amazing, trust me. I'm gonna do a video on it separately because it's just so awesome. I have a build for it which I really enjoy as well. You need to give it a try if you haven't yet. Then you have the AKMN, which is a worse Scar 47. And when I say worse, I mean like much worse. I'm sorry, I'm gonna be harsh in this tier list. This is a C tier gun. I have the AK-12. AK-12 is an A tier gun because it's very similar to the AK-74, but with some minor differences. And still, I think it's a very, very capable assault rifle at basically all ranges. Then there's the AK-308. Now I have some history with this rifle because As a lot of you know, I am not a fan of the AK-308, and I still think that it's not a very, very good gun, and I'm gonna put it into B tier because it has, from what I've seen, the least modding options out of all the DMRs in that line. And even though it can one-shot, like, yeah, the MK17 can one-shot, the G3 and the S58 can one-shot, so why would you use the AK-308? There is no point. Then we have the AUG, the AUG, whatever you want to call it. It's honestly a very, very solid rifle, and I think it's good to put it in the top of B tier, because I personally have used it, and it still feels basically the same as it always was, it being a two-shot at basically all ranges, having the 5.56 bullet, and it has decently low recoil, especially when it comes to vertical recoil, so for people who don't like to mod their guns a lot and just want a simple gun that you can just buy and instantly have some good games with, I recommend the AUG. Then there's the QBZ. Oh boy. Now, I've heard some stuff about the QBZ, and from what I've heard, this is probably very close to the AKM in its performance, so I'm gonna have to put it into C tier. I'm sorry. I know the QBZ was getting some love for the attachments and, like, more modding, but still, I don't think the QBZ is worthy of anything above maybe B tier, but you'll see that B tier is going to get pretty saturated with a lot of guns being there soon. Then we have the MK9, or the CMG MK9T machine gun. I guess it's like an M4 with 9mm, and I honestly love this gun. I think it's an amazing weapon. In 0.22. In 0.23, so at the new update, the gun went from an S tier, or like a A tier, all the way down to bottom B tier. For the simple reason that the horizontal recoil, which we can see on basically all guns now, just makes this gun suck. Trust me, if you are worrying about time to kill and you're not hitting all your shots, the MK9 is not your friend. This has like a 4-hit time to kill. Or if you manage to get to a 3-hit time to kill, then congratulations. You just created a wonder, and it might be one of the better submachine guns. MP5. So MP5 is very similar to the CMG in terms of recoil, as it is a very low recoil gun, but it's 10 times better. The MP5, for me, is also an S tier rifle. I'm gonna put it at bottom S tier though, because even though it is very, very good when it comes to recoil, being lightweight, and the ergonomics, the damage just ain't it, man. Like, you still need to hit your enemy 4 to 5 times depending on the range, which is not ideal, and you will not be hitting every single headshot in that line, especially with the suppression effect being, as strong as it is right now. And there's the UMP45, which I was very, very surprised to play again and see. Well, it is very good actually, because last time I tried it, it was the worst SMG by far, and I mean by far. The UMP was unusable, but now it really feels like a very solid option to use, especially because of the reduced time to kill when compared to the MP5, for example. I think the UMP is definitely a very capable CQB weapon, and that's why I'm going to put it into A tier. And there's the PP19, which is like the MP5 from Wish, but it's still a solid B tier pick in my opinion. Like, feel free to use it if you want to. It's definitely a very good gun for like CQB. For medium ranges, I don't know, maybe you should use another submachine gun if you really want to use one of them. Okay, so we're at 4045 ACP Vector. This is a monster. Like, in close range, this genuinely is a monster. That's why I'm gonna put it into S tier. And same goes for the 9mm Vector, which also is a monster. So yeah, 9mm Vector also goes in S tier. And I use this build just so I can differentiate. I'm sorry I had to. Okay, MP133 Baikal, the Russian standard shotgun. I'd say it's a B tier, probably somewhere in the middle of B tier, because it's a shotgun. Shotguns in Deadline aren't the best weapons, but it can one shot, and you don't really need to aim that well. It does not compare to something like the MK17, which can also one shot up to any range. Plus, the shotgun has a cycle. But if you manage to, get a good build with a decent barrel length and ergonomics, you might be onto something, because shotguns aren't that bad. And the American shotgun, the Remington, basically the same thing as the Russian shotgun, just some minor differences when it comes to modding. For all the pistols, I won't be talking about them in detail. The Makarov is a D-tier gun, the Tula is also a D-tier gun, the EDC X9 is a B-tier gun, and both Glocks are in C-tier. Now for the Mosin Nagant, which is the re-added sniper rifle, which I'm very excited to hear about, I think the Mosin is honestly a top B-tier rifle. It is very, very solid when it comes to sniping at medium ranges, because at long ranges the bullet drop is not that great. Trust me, if you've played this on like Nuristan, you might have noticed that it just really feels like the accuracy is horrible. Like, it's basically the most inaccurate rifle when it comes to long ranges, if you're not using like all the longest attachments possible. So yeah, I don't recommend using the Mosin for super long range sniping, but it can be very satisfying. As for the Remington 700, I think it's a bottom 8-tier gun, so very close to the Mosin. It's just better. That's why I'm gonna put it into like right here, and not into B tier. You can mod it a lot more, and it deals basically the same damage and has better velocity, so it's the best bolt action rifle out of the two. Then there's the JRPGs. The R. I have no idea what this is called actually. I cannot recall, just simply because I haven't used it that much. But the one you can mod a lot, basically, not the RPG something V2. Yeah, I think RPGs aren't that good. Like, they are definitely over, what is it called? A lot of people are overreacting because of RPGs. I think both RPGs fit into bottom 8 tier, because yes, with heat drones and the penetration, they can be very, very annoying. But at the same time, if there's like someone just running around and you have, I don't know, any gun with more ergonomics than an RPG, you will win this fight. Like, if you want a one-shot experience, just use, I don't know, G3 MK17, maybe the bolt action, doesn't matter. Plus you only get 3 shots in total, which is not that much. Keep that in mind. Okay, and that concludes our tier list. As you can see, this time it's a lot more distributed between all the tiers, with of course A, B being the more saturated tiers, but I also gave more guns the chance to be in S tier this time, just taking into consideration how they actually perform in game, and not just based on stats, and also my personal experience, of course. So if you like this tier list video and you want to see, I don't know, more detailed comparisons of maybe all the guns from a single class, like all the assault rifles, all the submachine guns, which one you should use for what, like different builds, tell me in the comments what specifically you want. I'm open for that right now, because just making gameplay videos can also get very boring, and I think it's best for me and best for you if I can give you content that you really want to see and that's interesting for most of my viewer base. With that yapping out of the way, join my Discord, link in the description, and I hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye.